Howdy, everybody. I found this picture online, this table on the symptoms of coronavirus versus the flu and the cold. It's from a German website. I find it very clear and informative in such a small space. So I decided to translate it into English and have a little class on medical terms and adverbs of frequency. I want to start with another way of saying this, how to recognize something from something else. I can also say how to tell apart or tell from. For example, my sisters and I look very much alike, and it's hard to tell us apart. It's hard to tell Monica from Julia. So how do we tell apart a cold and COVID-19? There's a list of symptoms. These ones, fever, dry cough, and so on. And the frequency with which you can find these symptoms for each disease, for the cold, for the flu, and for COVID. We'll see them all. With COVID-19, you will always get the fever and the dry cough, for example. What's a cough? Of course, this little fella is coughing. And with COVID, it's usually a dry cough, so no mucus. You will always get the fever. And if I want to measure your temperature, I can see these. I can say, let me get your temperature with a thermometer. And if you are, yes, you are running a fever. The sniffles, also called runny nose, means that my nose is wet all the time. I have the sniffles, or he is sniffling. This guy is sneezing. A sneeze is the best way to transmit coronavirus because the germs are in the droplets of saliva. This is how it spreads. So it's common courtesy to cover your mouth when you sneeze or when you cough with your hand or with your elbow, even better. It can also be a noun. So I can also say, whoa, that was a big sneeze. When someone sneezes, you can say, bless you. And you answer, thank you. This guy has got a sore throat. So when he swallows, it hurts. This guy has got a headache, a pounding headache. And when it's very serious, I can also call it, of course, a migraine. So what's the difference between ache and sore? Ache can also be a verb and a noun. It's usually a severe pain. As we see, a migraine is an ache. And it's usually throbbing, boom, 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 with the heartbeat. We can have a toothache, for example. It's usually something that I should have checked, aka I should go to the doctors. And I can usually cure it with medications, usually. So I have an earache, a toothache, and a headache. I can also say my head is aching, my tooth is aching, and my ear is aching. Something sore has a lower level of pain. A bruise is something sore. My arm is sore. I have a bruise. It's usually temporary. For example, the hangover gives me a sore head. It's temporary. It will go away. Something is sore, usually to the touch. For example, a bruise. Or because I've used it too much, for example, muscles, after running too much. My muscles are sore. Holy moly, my muscles are sore. So let's see. Is this a headache or a sore head? Yes, it's a headache. He has got a headache. His muscles are sore because he ran too much. What about this little guy? Is this a sore tooth or a toothache? Yes, he has got a toothache. What about this guy? Does he have a aching throat or a sore throat? It's a sore throat because it will go away soon. What about this guy? After he wipes and wipes and wipes his nose because he has the sniffles, what happens to his nose? His nose will be aching or sore? Sore because it's temporary and it's a low level of pain. So these are the most common symptoms for COVID-19. As I said, you will always get the fever and you will always have dry cough. You will often, so not always, 90% of the time, get a sore throat? And what about a headache? How often do you get a headache? Yes, often. Something that doesn't happen often are the sniffles. The sniffles are rare with COVID-19, and sneezing is never a symptom of COVID. So how do we answer to this question? If something happens 100% of the time, if it's certain, we'll say that it always happens. Something that happens 80% of the time or 90%, that's often or often. I often go to school by bike. Sometimes I walk, but I often go by bike. So sometimes I walk 50% of the time. Sometimes is the only adverb that goes at the beginning of the sentence. I rarely drink tea because I don't like it. So it's something that I do 10% of the time. Something I never do, I use never. I never go to school by car. That. So I'll give you a couple of exercises for you to practice, and you can write the answers in the comments below. Can you describe the common cold? Can you recognize these pictures? What symptoms are they? And how often do they happen with these illness? And how can you describe the symptoms of flu? With these pictures and these frequency. Hope this class was interesting, and see you next time. Please do not consider this a medical class, so do not take any of these as medical advice because I was only focusing on the English language. Take care. Ciao.